Will Jacen Syndulla become Darth Caeduus? In Legends, Darth Caeduus was by far one of the most powerful Sith Lords post-Return of the Jedi, and he was responsible for some terrible atrocities in this time, more specifically killing Mara Jade, who was Luke Skywalker's wife. But why would someone as innocent as Jacen Syndulla turn to the dark side? There's no inclination of him being dark or struggling with the dark side right now. Well fam, it's Star Wars, and it happens. I actually think that Jacen Syndulla and Jacen Solo, who becomes Darth Caeduus, are actually very similar. And by far, the most interesting thing about this theory is that they share the same name. That's right, Darth Caeduus is actually Jacen Solo. There's a lot of theories and rumors out there that Dave Filoni himself literally picked this name for Jacen Syndulla because it's an ode or a tribute to Jacen Solo. And it's also the timeline. The timeline of these characters being introduced is very similar. Jacen Syndulla was introduced a year before the Battle of Yavin, that's 1 BBY. And Jacen Solo, his story starts about 9 years after that. So that's about a decade that really separates both of those characters. So I guess Jacen Syndulla would be about, what, 9-10 years older than Jacen Solo? But at the end of the day, their timelines, their stories can be moved around and fit into the new storyline that we see, especially in the Ahsoka and Mando-verse where there are so many stories. Now, these are some smaller and obvious similarities, but there are some things that I think are too similar for them to be a coincidence. And each of these characters excelled greatly with their powers of the Force and at a young age. To make you understand, during the pregnancy of Princess Leia, she was able to connect mentally with Jacen Solo as his mind was developing. But more importantly, at around the age of 2 years old, Jacen was able to lift objects with his mind and use the Force for his childhood mischief to annoy his mother Leia. He was also gifted in speaking to animals and having them do his bidding. But what's more interesting is how Jacen Solo was able to detect feelings in those animals, but also other people. His empathy was incredibly powerful. And with how the relationships and the story progressed in Ahsoka, fam, this is a direct comparison that we've seen Jacen Syndulla's powers and Jacen Solo's powers. Just like the hyperspace jump in episode 4. After the jump to Peridea, Jacen says he has a bad feeling, which in my opinion is an indication of him picking up on the feelings of his mother Hera, the Republic pilots that almost died, and maybe even Sabine's guilt about potentially seeing her choices lead to the death of Ahsoka. I mean, it is so obvious that his powers are very strong for someone his age, but also without any training. There is no one there in this timeline for him to train with. Ahsoka's doing her own thing, Sabine is not a Force sensitive at this time, and Ezra is completely on the other side of the universe. So there's no one that can teach him because his mother doesn't really know enough to make him understand and evolve his powers. And even with all of these things, Jacen Syndulla is still able to detect Ahsoka and Anakin's presence in the world between worlds. Him hearing the lightsabers, him communicating with Chopper to help find Ahsoka as well. I mean, it is so obvious how powerful this kid is at a young age. But it's also terrifying because with great power comes great responsibility, and we see what happens in Star Wars where very young Force sensitives who are strong in the Force struggle and turn to the dark side. And that is actually the main issue here, because he is so powerful. Ezra has finally returned to the known galaxy. This gives us the potential of Ezra training Jacen Syndulla. And what's also awesome is that Jacen Syndulla's father, Kanan, trained Ezra. So I feel like the two are destined to train and have a relationship together. But Jacen Syndulla being so strong within the Force makes him susceptible to falling to the dark side. And without a father figure there, the only person he's going to have to rely on when times get hard is going to be his mother, Hera Syndulla, and of course is going to be new master, Ezra Bridger. And that's just the thing. As time gets on, dude, this Thrawn conflict is going to get worse, and Hera, in my opinion, is not going to have a lot of time to become a parent. So that's going to isolate Jacen Syndulla with Ezra, and Ezra is going to be the only person that's going to try to nurture his Force abilities. But we've all seen it happen. We've seen it happen with Anakin. We've seen it happen with Ben Solo. I think Jacen Syndulla is going to be the next victim of the dark side, and how his struggles are going to evolve and ultimately tempt him into becoming the next fallen Jedi. It's kind of sad because it feels like Jacen Syndulla's fate is already written for him, which ultimately is the way of Star Wars. Powerful young Force sensitives that really have no idea that they're so strong, and when terrible things happen, because terrible things do happen in Star Wars, they are left to suffer and fall. And I do think something terrible is going to happen. Is it going to be the death of his mother, Hera Syndulla? Is it going to be the death of his best friend, Chopper? Or is it going to be the death of his master, Ezra Bridger? Those are all so many variables that can happen, and we've seen similar things happen in Star Wars. But the most important thing is what you all think. Do you think Jacen Syndulla is going to become Darth Caeduus? Or do you think maybe he's just going to go around in this future unscathed and maybe even not get trained at all? Personally, I feel like the answer is written in his name. Jacen Syndulla is going to be Darth Caeduus, and I'm so very excited to see the rest of this story because Heir to the Empire and this Dave Filoni movie is going to have so much happening in it, and I can't wait to see it. I hope you all enjoy this. Make sure you subscribe for more, and I'll see you around, fam. Deuces!